I don't know. Cardinals fans sometimes are really cool. Sometimes they think they invented baseball, but it is a good baseball town.
What about this town? What kind of a baseball town is this right now?
Giants fans suck and they're the worst. Put that on Twitter, because that's what we do here. No, I'm just kidding. Giants fans
is what we do, but I wasn't leading you to that. I wanted to kind of lead you into making a broader comment about the state of this franchise, where they are, because I look at this team in this regime, and for me, it reeks of mediocrity. You take a 107-win season, that's great. That feels like the anomaly. It feels like one that doesn't really fit with the others, what we've had the other years.
Need to turn the page from that season.
No, I've turned it.
Yeah, good.
And I called it what I think that it was. I used the F word, and my partner didn't like it, but I thought it was a flukish 107-win season.
Hard to fluke into 107, but that season created a big monster. Let's just put it that way.
It did, and that monster has remained unfed since then. So I'm asking you, where do you put this team right now? What do you make of where they are after, 70 games now into the season, 69 games? You're a game below 500, but you're right in the wild card. What are your feelings about this Giants team right now?
Well, first of all, about a baseball town, I think that's a fun question to address, because I don't think anybody ever talks about that or doesn't talk about it enough. And I've always said this, that Giants fans are East Coast fans. They're smart, they're in tune, they're passionate, they come to the yard and they know what they want out of their team. And they expect it. And you want your fan base to expect greatness. If your fan base is like, oh, well, I hope we finish 500 this year. Like, no. You want your fans to expect a championship, and I think that's great. And I think Giants fans are intense, and we've been on the East Coast for 11 years. Having been on the East Coast for 11 years, I come back here and it has East Coast vibes, and that's a compliment, because I think East Coast sports fans, generally speaking, are better than West Coast sports fans. They are. They're just more passionate,
right?
And I feel like the Giants fans have that same sort of passion, and that's a huge compliment. Where the team is right now, I think they're doing a great job with all the injuries they've had. If they're still in the mix and they're right around 500 and they haven't hit stride, and now you got the cavalry coming with Ray and Cobb, and hopefully Snell does what he does in the second half. His last outing was very promising. And then Chapman's doing what he's doing, and you have some unexpected things like Ramos, and maybe Matos comes back and he's in the mix. Wisely's been great at shortstop. So I'm not sitting here and saying there's going to be a parade on Market Street, but I have a weird faith and a weird confidence in this team that I don't think a lot of the fan base does right now.
And why do you think they don't have that fan base? Is it as simple as they don't think that Farhan Zaidi, do you think that Farhan,
might be.
He gets an unnecessary amount of the burden of blame for this team being 500? Because that's what I feel. I feel like a lot of fans.
I think it's big boy sports, if I'm being honest. And if your record is your resume, and they know that. I'm not saying anything that a major league manager or a major league president of baseball operations doesn't know. So, the frustration over the last few years has to be pointed in direction. We're in a society where we need somebody to blame.
Always.
We have to. We can't just say, oh, well, it's just, no, we got to blame somebody for anything that happens. Even if it's not the person it happened to, we got to blame somebody. So Farhan's taking the heat. And maybe even Farhan would say, yeah, until I win a World Series with the guy before me won 3, it's going to be rough on me. I mean, never follow a better act, right? There's some criticism there, and I understand. The thing I always go back to, Dibs, is I grew up here. I grew up a Giants fan. Since the time I was 7 years old, I was a Giants fan. So I know more about being a Giants fan than I do about being a player, a coach, or a broadcaster in the organization. And all my friends and family are Giants fans. So I get it. It's not like I'm some, I don't know, satellite broadcaster that just flies in for the season. I grew up here.
And you grew up during the same time I did, which were the lean years of the 70s.
It's terrible. We just picked a player and we liked him.
Well, we had Willie McCovey. That was the player that we all picked.
I started dipping Copenhagen because of Chili Davis. He had a big fat dip in his lip.
Wow.
So, and I wanted to be like a big
How'd that work out for you?
Terrible habit. Yeah. 22 years. Terrible habit. I quit the day I retired.
You did,
but I worship those guys. Jeffrey Dwayne Kuiper was one of my favorite players. I even like Johnny LeMaster because I love the way we used to make fun of. We used to wear our Little League pants up to our chest because Johnny LeMaster wore his pants so high. I'm like, who am I? We like Johnny LeMaster. So Bob
Brenly, and Bob Melvin. We remember all those guys.
Who didn't emulate Will Clark and wiffle ball? So when I say that, I don't know. It just. I like the vibe, and this is such maybe a terrible word, and so it's such a generality. But when you're around the team and you see what Bob means to these guys, I didn't know Bob Melvin had the presence that he had. Because when you heard Bob Melvin before, and our paths have never crossed, or not really. And
you never played for him. No. You never broadcasted for his team.
You hear how nice he is. He's the greatest. He's the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And maybe he is, and he has been to me. But like when you sit in his office or you talk to him, and maybe this is a me thing and not a him thing because I don't know him very well, there's a presence there. And it's an old school manager presence.
Yeah.
Like the old days when if you were 0 for 10, you didn't even walk by your manager because he didn't want to see you. I don't know if that's Bob, but when I sit in those meetings, I feel a presence that I didn't feel when I was in those meetings last year. Like Gabe was cool. He was always nice to us. I can't say a bad thing about Gabe. Like his person, man to man, he's always very accommodating. He gave us a lot of information, a lot we couldn't use on the air. But like Bob has a presence, and I think that's a good thing. And this is the truth, and maybe too much of the truth. But I think the problem the last couple of years is there was a lack of accountability. So if you hit a fly ball and took 3 steps and went back to the dugout, you still were in the game. And if you watch the little things with the Giants now, the things I talked to you guys about from the rooftop the other day, guys are playing every day. Guys aren't getting pinch hit for. If you watch every single guy run the ball out, everybody's running the ball out. Like if there's a ground ball in the infield, guys are ripping down the line, hard 90 every single time. And if they get a base hit, they're taking big turns at first base or looking for a bobble. If there's a pop-up hit in a day game at the windiest, sunniest park in America, these guys are on second base if it's dropped. So when you see all these little things on a nightly basis that aren't just a flash in the pan, it wasn't just Scottsdale, we break camp and now we jog to first. Elliott's playing like 26, 27 games in a row. He's not having to look over his shoulder in the 6th inning and get pinch hit for. Yaz is starting against lefties. Wisely's starting against lefties. It's got more of a baseball vibe to it. And while they're around 500 right now, my thinking is, in any sport, if you're hurt, just hover until the cavalry comes back. And they're treading water right now. They're playing decent baseball.
With a lot of AAA guys.
Well, they're big leaguers now.
They are.
And there's someone who are establishing themselves. I take offense, and not to you, Dibs, but in general when say, oh, that's a AAA team out there. They're wearing big league uniforms. They're standing on a field on the corner of 3rd and King. If they were AAA guys, they'd be on the corner of whatever Sacramento Rivercat Stadium is. So they're big league guys. And some are taking advantage of opportunities, some aren't. Some did take advantage. They're going to be here for a while. Some went back. So in that regard, I guess I have a lot of confidence in this team based on all these things I'm saying. The vibe I feel, the coaching staff that I see work, I hear the communication. I get little tidbits here and there when I talk to the coaching staff. I like the way they're playing hard, and I like the way they're showing up every day. And when they don't show up, their manager calls them out. So all these things to me are conducive to get healthy and let's see what happens. But that adjustment period that was April and May, and now we're into mid-June, should be kind of over. End of June into July.
And the adjustment period, you mean for the guys who came up from Sacramento mostly?
No, for a new coaching staff and a new manager and new players. Like they should be just gelling right now. And hopefully you're seeing that. And June's the month with who they're playing. No offense, it's big leagues every night. But with the Angels coming in, the Cubs and the Cardinals are having kind of similar season. We'll see. It's time to giddy up, though. If you're Soler, it's time to giddy up.
Yeah.
If you're the team, it's time to giddy up. If you're Snell, it's time to giddy up. Like, let's go. It's go time.
Yeah, and hopefully Snell can get back healthy and start to, continue what he's done throughout his career, which is July, August, September. He's been great.
And if you're Tyro, it's time to giddy up. Like the guys that are scuffling, let's go. Here we go.
And especially when you look at spots that are going to be, competed for. If Ahmed comes up and you want a more defensive-minded shortstop, maybe you end up putting Wisely over at second a little bit if Tyro Estrada's not swinging the bat as well as you would want him to do. And so competition creates a certain amount of energy, right, in clubhouses where you've got more than one guy who can play a certain spot. And if you've got a designated hitter who is designated and yet he's not hitting, maybe you have somebody else you can put in that spot and start to heat up Jorge Soler a little bit.
Yeah, we got to get him going. And I think you stick with him is how you get him going. It's like a shooter, you got to shoot out of it. Someone on the message stream is saying showing up and playing hard is the absolute bare minimum. And they're right. They're absolute right. But here's what showing up and playing hard does in a time in baseball where I don't think every single team does. It's a statement. If I'm running hard to first base and I'm taking big turns, I'm sending a message to the other team in the other dugout that I'm here to play. If I'm jogging to first and I'm not taking a big turn on a base hit, I'm showing the other team that maybe I'm not here to play. So when you approach the game the right way, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, I don't care, and you're playing balls out and you're playing as hard as you can, it's sending a message to the other team and maybe sending a message to players in your own dugout, in your own locker room, that this is how we go about it here. So yeah, showing up and playing hard is the absolute bare minimum. Yeah, it is, but then I think it's bigger than that. I think it sends a message that we play the game the right way and we're here to compete tonight. We're here to compete our ass off. So let's go. Me against you. Let's do this.
Yeah, and a big part of that is what you talked about with Bob Melvin, a manager with experience, a guy with gravitas. He is third all-time in wins among managers who do not have a World Series championship. Your guy from Washington is number 2, Buck Showalter, and Gene Mauch, number 1 all-time among managerial wins for skippers who do not have a World Series title. So hopefully Bob can get himself off that list sooner rather than later.